And we are recording. All right, folks, welcome on in. This is the CVL draft, both Reg H and Reg F. We're just going to be going over it, just looking at some teams, what people have drafted, and let's get right into it. My name is Fluffy.
I'm Elko.
I'm hyper.
And yeah, well, why don't we get right on into this thing? Starting off with Reg F, we'll be doing team by team, and then we also have a tier list open here. We'll get some looks at, kind of just looking at someone's team overall and just ranking it from S to D tier. We won't be trashing anybody too bad, I promise. So we'll just really a quick oversight. You see the bands Magikarp, both Urshifus are gone. What do you guys
Very
think?
funny.
At least seeing the higher level, the higher points, really just not being drafted. Any of these of note to you guys that you may see get picked up later in the season?
I, for one, am still pretty new to VGC. I primarily play the TCG, so I'm still very new to this. So from what I can see here, I think Reggie Lucky's speed, from what I recall, is ridiculous. So I believe that might be picked up. That's from me.
Yeah.
I think my,
Hyper, go ahead.
sorry.
Sorry.
I think my most surprising Pokemon that hasn't been picked up is Hat. So considering two different teams have Psychic Terrain and some other Trick Room abusers, I really thought Hatterene would be
Yeah,
gone
seeing
by
some of
now.
that. Yeah. I also believe that Torkoal has been taken as well, if I'm not wrong, looking through the doc.
Yeah,
Oracle was taken first round in round two of Reg F.
Oh, I
It's like
got. Yep,
16
there it is.
points.
Torkoal is gone. 16 points. Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's surprising because like most teams you would see having DD, Torkoal, Hatterene, stuff like that, especially because it does. It doesn't get expanding force anymore, which is actually it didn't get expanding force at all, which is pretty good.
Mhm.
Thankfully, although you might even see some good old fashioned Regulation A Pokemon that love to spam expanding force like uh Armaroos. That's a big one. So that might go crazy in Reg H and maybe even Reg F for all we know. We'll see. But why don't we get right into this and look at the first team? Had the first overall pick, started off strong. We've got Chartwig. Mm. And well, looking here, first pick overall, Tornadus Incarnate. So somebody really likes their speed control and overall just making sure that you have a pretty strong flying type attacker with a meta that kind of has some ground types and grass types in it, so really looking to dish out some damage. I really like the priority tailwind, priority taunt. Rain Dance can be pretty good against some teams. Sunny Day can be good against some teams. But just looking at the rest of the team, any ideas you might see in the future if Chartwig is looking to win some games?
I'm very much noticing that the sun is part of his strategy with Ninetales having drought and just like a bunch of his Pokemon being good underneath the sun.
Mm-hmm. Hyper,
yeah,
any
and he has a
insight?
lot of options for the sixth pick. He has Bramblegast, here with Tailwind, Scoville, and of course with Sun and Tropius as well. So just a lot of different sun abusers, and that Brute Bonnet with Spore and photosynthesis. So very reliant, but also can be flexible with Tornadus. It does learn all the weather moves, so you
Yeah.
can use that to try and counter any opponent strategies.
Yeah, that
I'm
Prankster
also,
is pretty strong.
I'm also noticing the inclusion of Dusclops that it gives Chartwig as an option with Trick Room. I don't think he'll bring it every time, if at all, but he at least does have that option.
Yeah, Trick Room, if you're looking to set it up with this team, you're probably bringing Dusclops, Bonnet, Bax Caliber, and running Min Speed. Brambleghast can be good in some instances, and I feel like you can have Garchomp and Tornadus outside of Trick Room to just help set it up, or just to be sweepers when Trick Room ends. So just depending on how that is. But overall, this seems like a pretty solid team. I feel like Tartu's got a nice road ahead of them, the troubling topiaries. Looking at this, what are you guys thinking? I'm thinking more A, B tier with this draft.
Yeah.
Normally, yeah, I would say just throw it in like
Mhm.
B until we have more people to compare with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What?
looking at their team, they have 5 flying weaknesses and no flying resist. Luckily, they are the one with Tornadus, and they do
Yeah.
have Bramble Gas for like hurricanes and stuff. But there is, I looked at the draft. There is a common flying weakness in this draft. A lot of teams have only 1 or 2 resists and a few flying weaknesses.
Yeah. I mean, looking so far, yeah, seeing 4 grass types on this team, not a very good thing. And then the Hariyama as well. I don't feel like Hariyama's going to get brought too much into too many battles, but who knows? We might see some play from it. And if you do, you need to be careful of bringing too many grass types. Those are some weaknesses to be looking out for. And one calc you can keep in mind. I'm going to pull up the calculator for you guys here. Looking at that Garchomp, um, we'll just pull up the Reg G set, the Glass Cannon, good old fashioned. You've got Stomping Tantrum, Earthquake, Dragon Claw most of the time. And let's say it's going into a more bulkier, let's say Archaludon. And this is the Rain Sweeper set that's most known. Good HP. So you're looking to do about 80% with, this is with Life Orb. So you got to be a little careful in some instances. And if you do want to run Ground Terra, I do believe it picks up the KO. Yes, it does. In some instances, it will pick up the KO. In some Archaludon, it is in doubles, so you do need to remember that when it's the other Pokemon is taken out, Earthquake will be picking up the KO on Archaludon, but then keeping in mind that flying weakness that sometimes Garchomp might not be the Pokemon you want to bring. But other than that, you might move up, obviously, a little bit of a disclaimer. You might move up, you might move down in the list, depending on how you're doing. But this is not to trash anybody. This is just what we're thinking power rankings wise before the season starts. And obviously, you can move up and down depending on how you perform throughout the season. But I can't say Chartwig's got some shoes to fill with this team, especially with the flying weakness. Got to be careful with that. But I feel like you've also got a strong team on top of that, other than the flying weakness. So some coverage moves, especially with Baxcalibur, can be really huge for you. So just trying to figure out how to deal with those opposing flying types or fire types in some instances, especially in the sun. Any last notes?
If I do recall, the Chartwig did say that he picked up Tornadus Incarnate, initially trying to go for a rain team, and then Torkoal, or something got picked up, and he had to completely pivot to something else.
Yeah.
So I think this is pretty good considering that what he got.
Yep. Any last words from you, Hyper, before we
Yeah.
move on?
I think it's a pretty solid draft. The weaknesses that they do have can be covered, like Baxcalibur does hit those flying types. There's some ideas of a fairy weakness, but then you have like redirection with Scoville and Rage Powder. So I think he does have a lot of tools to cover up any weaknesses the team has and just run with Sun and use different ideas like that. So
Yeah. And well, why don't we move on then? So Chartwig on to Sea Turtle, who had the second overall pick in the draft. The Heart Scales, as you see, number 1 pick was Fluttermane. And really just looking into this team, drafted 10 Pokemon, I believe, if I can count correctly. No, this is 9. So instead of a more balanced team that we saw from Chartwig, we see just 9 straight Pokemon trying to look to sit around probably 8 to 9. I mean, 8 to 7 Pokemon you're really comfortable with, and then Jangmo I feel like was more for the funsies. Outside of that, any synergy that you guys can really see with this team?
Once again, I am seeing pretty good usage in the sun with just 2 Pokemon having photosynthesis there.
Mm-hmm.
Very good balance. Good balance of speed tiers as well. You have very fast Fluttermane, you have Slow King Gambit, and you have different things in between. You have Dragon Dance, Gouging Fire. Just good options there without having like a dedicated like priority tailwind or anything like that.
I'm also noticing like him on top, great support here, gets fake out, gets wide guard.
Yeah, that is true. Wide guard can be useful in this format. It's not spread moves happen in this format, but not as much as formats like Regulation G or Regulation I. But looking right now, as you mentioned earlier, the Sun might be good for this team, but it might also hurt it because Palafin is there. If you want to bring hero form Palafin, get a nice flip turn in, get it into that hero form, as it runs mostly just water type moves. You got to be really careful with how you figure that out. But I feel like that Sea Turtle's got their work cut out for them, but they could definitely win some games.
And I think it's especially good into enemy Sun or Rain because then as the opponent, you have to be careful with if you set up Sun or Rain or not. Because you could end up just helping them out with their Flutter Mane and gouging or with their Palafin.
If I'm doing this team, I would just like to take advantage of what my opponent brings in terms of weather. Just bring like the Palafin if you know the other team's got a Pelipper on it, or just bring if the Torkoal's on the other side, just bring the others.
And I also like to note their week 1 strategy. We already saw them play a game. They ran Dragon Cheer Sceptile to pair with their Gouging Fire.
And it worked perfectly as they actually ended up winning week 1. So looking very promising for you so far. As well, remember the Protosynthesis is good if you run Booster Energy for Gouging Fire and Flutter Mane, so that could be some good strats down the road against potential rain teams or snow teams if we see them. Some potential calcs. I will say the main calc I have been looking at is really this King Gambit. As you know, pull up the King Gambit set. As it's mostly known for just running just straight offense in this format. It does run a bit of bulk, so we'll actually, instead of the offensive set, actually, no, this is the correct set I'm looking at, excuse me. Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Kowtow, pretty well-known set for it, and if you give this thing a +2 into, let's say, what do you think this thing would be mostly run up against? What's, Volcarona, how about that? As it's,
Volcarona, Raging Bolt.
Yeah, let's check out the Volcarona calcs, then we'll check out the, so yeah, as you can see, if you are +2, you are going to one-shot most of the time with Sucker Punch, but then Kowtow is also going to do some damage, so just be careful because you are going to catch an overheat. So that Terra Dark Sucker Punch can really save the day for you and just one-shot Volcarona. It also opens up the mind game of Kowtowing in case it wants to Rage Powder or if it wants to set up a Quiver Dance if it has Quiver Dance. But yeah, that's a good calc to keep in mind. And as well, as you mentioned, the Raging Bolt. That is Volcarona again. Raging Bolt. Let's think the bulky set here. As +2, you are going to one-shot it most of the time with Sucker Punch, and Kowtow Cleave is going to take it down. So if you can get a +2 King Gambit or a Defiant boost, you're going to be doing a good amount of damage. And then with Defiant, you're doing at least 70% a hit. So definitely some heavy hitters in this format.
Remind me, which one goes first? The King Gambit with... Oh, no, Thunderclap just goes first.
Well, Sucker Punch actually has higher priority, but both moves end up... I believe both moves fail in some instances, but...
Interesting. Oh yeah, that would make sense if both of them would fail into each other.
But
as for overall...
if you click a Sucker Punch into Thunderclap, one of them will work. It's just whoever goes first.
Interesting. I'll keep that in mind.
Well, overall with this team, especially seeing that they've already won a game so far, and maybe that strat's working out for them so far, I'm thinking more maybe A tier and kind of hovering over towards S, depending on how we look later in the rankings. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I absolutely think this is an A tier team. This has a very solid. I believe the Turtle got a very solid draft overall, and just has a lot of strengths that are hard to cover for.
Yeah, I was really thinking S, maybe A. for this draft. Just a lot of different strategies you can run with, and it's very adaptable to your opponent's team.
Yeah, and actually thinking with that adaptability, we're gonna hover in S tier for right now, and then seeing if there's any other S tier picks that are really outshining, and we'll move down to A. But right now, sitting at the top of the list, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. If you guys are good with that, we're gonna move on to Hyper. Actually, so you could talk about. You got a bit of talking to do if you want to talk about anything you've got going on here. So
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
so overall,
So
you
I
see
can.
that first pick, like just thinking, you took Ogrepon first, if I'm not wrong, correct?
I picked Raging Bolt first.
Oh, Raging
You
Bolt first.
scroll down
Okay,
right there.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the speed order. If you scroll down, it's the pick order.
I got you. I
I
But
got you.
yeah. So Raging Bolt, that was my second overall. Fluttermane was my first, but then Ogre Pond Hearthflame was my third overall pick. So I actually ended up getting both, even though um I had to wait a whole draft cycle. Um, but yeah, I really got that. I knew I wanted to pick up Murkrow before the draft 'cause it really gave me some flexible speed control with that priority tailwind, and it has Sunny Day to pair with my Raging Bolt and Walking Wake and Ogerpon. Also Thunder Wave, Quash. It has just a bunch of good support tools. I knew from my last draft I really needed something like that in my draft. And then Tinkaton, it completes the Fairy Steel Dragon Core, which I have with both Raging Bolt and Walking Wake. Fake out, good support right there. Ditto, I can use that to counter some other strategies like Trick Room or just set up sweepers, big spread damage. Because I think one of the only things my draft doesn't have is big spread damage. That's reliable. And then after I picked Ditto, that was where I had to wait 4 hours for my whole pick. Because I was really thinking, do I want Ditto? Do I want to go with this Clefairy route, or do I want to go with Smeargle? Because I thought Ditto plus Smeargle, that's going to be really hard to prepare for. I ultimately went with Clefairy because I realized Galarian Zapdos really does cover a bunch of weaknesses my draft had. And like we've noticed so far, Flying has a good typing in a lot of these draft picks. And yeah, I think Galarian Zapdos, not a lot of people are looking at it, but it is a good cost for 13.
I mean, yeah,
And
overall
I
a
think that,
great team, I will say. And that stupid bird that I hate, Murkrow, is gonna be causing some problems for your enemy teams, I will say. Especially if you end up either running Sash or Nebulite, think it's gonna be taking some hits. So, but
yeah, I mean, it's
overall, team looks great.
surprisingly bulky.
I do believe the Venonat and Litten are just like mascot picks, right? Or did they have any applicable
I
use to
mean,
them?
they have applicable use technically. I mean, Litten, it's the best intimidator for 1 point. Fake out, parting shot. I mean, it does what Incineroar does, but obviously a little bit worse, or a lot bit worse, I guess. And then Venonat, I was going to look for a 3 pointer, but none of the 3 pointers really seem that useful to my draft. Venonat, it does get Rage Powder, so I have ideas. I will have technically 3 redirectors with Ogre Pond, Clefairy, and Venonat. It gives Compound Eye, Sleep Powder, so I could run Sash and Sleep something, and a hypothetical situation probably won't ever come up, but I mean, it is good to have those tools to catch an opponent by surprise or force them to prepare for something that I don't bring to get some more value there.
I gotcha. Well, any calcs you really would like to look at, Hyper? Is there any calc in particular you've been looking at with this team? Or
I mean, I just looking at Walking Wake in the sun specs, it just blows up everything. And I think I was looking at some calcs earlier. It even two shots Blissey, which special move two shotting Blissey. That's like if you go back a few generations, you're never going to find that almost anywhere. So I think Walking Wake, it just does tons of damage.
so you said even into Blissey?
Yeah, well, some Blissey sets you can get two shot, which Blissey not a very like common set or Terra Water actually. Terra Water choice specs modest, I think max.
Oh, if you're
But
modest. Okay, I see. I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm just gonna give it
I'm
this
pretty
for right
sure.
now, and yeah, let's see. In the sun, if you are even Terrifier Flamethrower can two-shot it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different calcs. I think it depends on how much special bulk pussy has, but you really have to be careful about walking wake. It can just like one shot, two shot, basically anything that is unresisted in the water type moves.
Yeah, that's a good amount of damage you're going to be seeing from that Walking Wake, but just be careful with the special attack set compared to the speed set. You might be doing a lot more damage, but your speed control might be a little bit scary, especially with Murkrow only setting up Tailwind, and some Trick Room teams might be some trouble. But overall, this team looks very strong in my opinion. I believe we have another S tier on our hands. What do we think?
I'll default to Hyper here.
Hyper, I mean,
I
you were
mean,
the one who drafted it.
I don't want to be biased or anything, but I do think my draft is really strong, especially looking at some of these other drafts.
Yeah, we'll sit up there in the S tier for right now. And yeah, I mean, overall, what a great team. It does have some weaknesses sometimes to Trick Room, so we'll see how that, after you Clefairy can be a good pickup with that, but we'll see in the future how that happens if you do end up facing anybody like that. Moving on, we've got Katori.
Trick Room.
We'll talk about Trick Room actually a little bit here, as well as I just mentioned, actually seeing Porygon 2 and Ursaluna. So as you were saying about Trick Room, if you want to go ahead for a little bit, why not, Oko?
Yeah, absolutely. So the only team I've ever run in VGC so far has been a Downwings Necrozma team that is just like hard Trick Room. But yeah, this is something I'm at least a little bit more familiar with. With Ursaluna being able to just set up, gain a guts boost with the Flame Orb, and then just kind of sweeping through everything physically. And then you've also got great supporters in Araquanid and Amoonguss in Trick Room, just to put everything to sleep, and also great wide guard support on the Araquanid. Scrafty is a good Trick Room Intimidator, so that was a really good pickup by Katori there. We also see that Katori has already won a game here.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the Porygon 2, that thing was taking names. 4 kills already, and you see 3 kills as well from the Ursaluna. Nothing to be unexpected there, but really just this hard Trick Room team it seems to be. And then if you really need, you can have either Scarf or Specs, Zoroark to just pick up some early KOs, set up Trick Room. You also have the Auroraville and Ninetales really just taking control and just making sure that the opponent does not get to do any damage to you at all. It's just really strong. One thing I do need to say, be careful of setup sweepers on this team, because you are going to take at least a turn or two to set up Trick Room, depending on what you're going up against. So maybe some Swords Dancers or Electroshot from Arcaludon could be a little scary, but Ursaluna should be able to clean up with some ground type moves. But then Terra Grass might actually take care of you, because it also takes care of Amoonguss, Ursaluna, and it does pretty good damage into the Alolan Ninetales already. So Terra Grass might be good in certain situations, and also it might actually hurt you a little bit. But depending on the situation, I feel like Terra Grass can really hurt this team in some instances.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned earlier,
it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, the flying weakness on the grass team that we saw, Chartwig, we've got 2 flying types, and we also have Moltres being fire and flying, so really just being a grass type's nightmare out here.
They do have some good counters. Interestingly, though, they do have 4 flying weaknesses themselves and no resistance in the Moongus, Araquanid, Flamigo, and Scrafty. So you have to watch out for that. But as we said, like Alolan Ninetales, that does sort of pick up any, doesn't resist it, but it does have some good application into flying mons themselves.
Yeah, and Ursaluna being tanky as it is can definitely get some big damage with a guts boosted facade into those flying types. So really just expecting big things from this Ursaluna again into some flying types. Scrafty with Fake Out can be pretty strong. Intimidate is also pretty good. But yeah, overall it's pretty good. And then some calcs to keep in mind. I'm gonna get to this Ursaluna. This Ursaluna is very scary. This thing is dealing a lot of damage, and it is here to hurt you and hurt your soul. So we're gonna bring up, I mentioned earlier, actually, Arcaludon again. We're gonna say the bulky setup sweeper, as I mentioned, and when this thing is burned, a facade into will only do 50, but then a headlong rush, that thing is murdering you.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I loved using the thing into opposing Miraidon back when I was using it. So I Cutlery Gut has a very solid Pokemon here in Ursaluna.
Yeah, I mean, overall, just you see the amount of damage this thing is doing. And then if you think the Terra Grass, you can live a hit from this thing, but you're not doing too much back to it. But I see big things from this Ursaluna. I think it's gonna tear
Yeah,
through people.
very scary. A lot of good support Pokemon here. Good secondary damage as well. Like you would think this team very relies on Ursaluna, but actually, I mean, you have a bunch of good tools in Amoonguss. Porygon 2 does a lot of damage as well with the download boost, and then some of your other guys too. They do have a bunch of damage you might want not think of. So
Yeah, I mean, this team looks really strong overall. I can't say the weaknesses of this team are very real. I can say if your opponent can deny Trick Room, you are going to be in some big trouble of speed control, but the Ursaluna can hopefully pick up some KOs while they're denying Trick Room. But you just got to be careful. I can say this team looks pretty strong, but I feel like if the players know how to deny Trick Room or can do pretty well against it, this team sits in the A tier for me.
I agree. A tier
mhm.
seems very solid for this team.
Yeah. Oh, and also you have that Zoroark Hisui too. You can disguise that potentially. I mean, there's some good picks here. Porygon 2, Zoroark, of course, immune to fighting. Porygon 2, only weakness, so you could do some tricks there. But yeah,
Yeah, it seems pretty great. Honestly, so far the top four teams we've seen definitely have some potential to start winning them games, but now we're going to move on to Eevee here as the Eevee Bow Brigade. We're actually going to speed things up a little bit just to make sure that we're not running too far on time because I do need to be out of here in about an hour 15. So just making sure we can get through both drafts pretty evenly. So, but folks, just looking at this team, um, really just the first pick being in DD female. This is one of those Psychic Trams teams we were talking about. What do you guys think so far, at least?
I am noticing a lack of expanding force because this.
yeah,
I do remember that, Artemis telling me that they wanted to run expanding force in DD, so I am noticing a lack of that,
you know,
unfortunately.
you have the Gardevoir, but Gardevoir, not a super high special attack. It does have some good special attack, but not like the most standout you could find.
But
Yeah.
very good value pick in Veluza, being able to just kind of fillet fish and blow up stuff in psychic terrain.
Hmm. I mean, just looking at Gardevoir being your only special attack, not special attack, excuse me, your only expanding force user. Maybe some choice specs would be a good option here, and not opt and go for Trick Room because then you can have fake out with Min Xiao before you set up terrain. Um, you can also have just set up Trick Room if you really want to, but then Gardevoir you have to run some slow IVs. But I do feel like that the Gardevoir here can really be your saving grace, especially with Helping Hand boost from Indeedee or Min Xiao. Wide Guard is pretty cool as well. But Specs might be a good option for Gardevoir, kind of just tear through teams, but just be careful with some Dark types, because I feel like Dark types and even some Ghost types might tear through this team.
hmm Dark, Ghost, Steel as well. Flying. I mean, all these have some good matchups into this team. With only a few resistances. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, you do have that double redirection, or actually, um,
Ogerpon
then
and
you
Indeedee,
have
yes.
double follow me. Does the Bombi get Rage Powder?
I believe it does.
Okay, then you have three redirectors there. That's some good support. It's just making sure you have the damage, and I believe Artemis they had 5 points left over, so they do have some room to change some things up if stuff doesn't work out. But
Yeah, I mean, now with that, I mean, I don't think there's any really calcs we have to look at. This is more just a expanding force type team. Size spam is a big thing. We're kind of just gonna overall with this team, it's just a size spam team in some instances, but there's also some extra damage you can see from the Gengar, the Veluza, Ogerpon. Picking up some KOs would be huge. Skeletors is also big. So maybe if you can set up Trick Room and Big Glastrier even to some games, you can get some good damage in. But overall, it seems like a pretty good draft, but I feel like this team is sitting around the B tier right now. What do you guys think?
I agree.
yeah,
It
B
still
and
has like a
C.
very good niche, and it's what you're going. Although you do know what you're going mostly be facing against with this team.
Yeah, I mean, this team can definitely cook. They definitely have their work cut out for them. If they want to win a bunch of games, they potentially go wrong and win the whole thing, but I've got some faith in them. But moving on, we're moving on to Too Much Dog. And first overall pick, Dondozo and Tatsugiri.
hmm Very very interesting to pick Tatsugiri as your second pick. Considering not many people else would want it. I've seen a lot of draft strategies. You pick Dondozo early on, and you wait till your last pick to pick Tatsugiri, kind of keep it. But I mean, you do have some other good teammates. You got Talonflame for that Prankster Tailwind or Priority Tailwind with the Gale Wings. Reggie Drago, good spread damage. Gomora, you can go for some more stall strategies with Dozogiri, Toxic Spikes, or Poison Gas, or whatever have you. Iron Moth, another good setup sweeper. And then you have some more support. Blastoise, Fake Out, and we got Cookie here. Grassy terrain, you compare Grassy Seed with some things. So you do have some good options.
Yeah, this team overall seems like one of the more modern Scarlet and Violet teams that you've seen, except for the Regidrago kind of just being there and just wants to spam Dragon Energy and say you're going to deal with it. Especially with Talonflame on its side, getting that priority Tailwind up, that could be very huge. Fake Out might be a little scary into it though, but I feel like it can be dealt with. But this team seems very strong overall. There's not really too many calcs we need to go over. This team likes to hit you hard with Regidrago and Meowscarada, and even Iron Moth in some instances. And then Dozogiri with Glimora is just self-explanatory. We've all seen it in VGC. It's very dangerous, but just need to be careful of those fairy type attackers for Regidrago. And then probably going to run Grass Terra on Dondozo, so electro types aren't going to be hit you too hard. But then remember that then opposing flying or fire types are really going to take care of you then. So just be careful with your Terra, but it's Dozogiri. It's a pretty good strat. It can work out.
Yeah. The only problem, you are in draft, so a lot of teams are going to be packing haze when you're going in, especially because they know what they're bringing. And we have some prankster haze mods. We have some haze. You just slap it on fourth move to your team. So they're
Yeah.
really going to have to be careful. Play some
Ooh,
mind
that is
games.
a good
When are you
strategy.
bringing Dozogiri? When are you not bringing Dozogiri? Catch them off guard. Like maybe in case they don't bring their hazies or for one game, just switch up your strategies in between games.
Yeah, I mean, this team seems pretty strong overall. Just one of the more Scarlet and Violet known teams overall. But I feel like this team sitting around the A tier for me. It's pretty strong. Just needs to be played right. But I feel like if played right, it can definitely get some damage done.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All
Remind
right.
me the grass water starter duo is Swamp, right?
So
The
yeah,
one
they
Duchess.
do have.
oh yeah, you because you have
Yeah, they do
Blastoise and
have
Masquerada.
swamp.
Yeah, you do have Swamp available to you. So yeah, that could be some speed control for you. That's actually a good catch right there. So yeah, we'll keep that in mind. And then moving on, we've got Benji, the Blood Moon Beasts, and actually does actually have Rizaluna Blood Moon. It was their first pick alongside Sinistra. So kind of seems more like a team that's all over the place. You don't really have too much of slow Pokemon to go for. I mean, you do have a couple slow Pokemon to go for Trick Room, but then you don't have a Tailwind setter, so you really are kind of just stuck going with Trick Room and having some of these awkward speed tiers with Bisharp, Dragonite, and Hisuian Arcanine, and Pommet. So you got to be careful with that. Hopefully they can help out set up Trick Room, but outside of that, when you're outside of Trick Room, it's a
Actually,
little scary. But inside of
Frostmoth
Trick Room, it
does
seems
learn
scary.
Tailwind.
It does, really.
Yeah, I just
Does
looked
seem a
that
bit
up,
frail
but
for it
you
though.
do have a Tailwind option. I mean, you have the Ice Scales for a lot of big special bulk, but you do have to be wary of those physical attackers.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the more spread out type teams that we've seen. So not too many like shared weaknesses across your team, which is very good for them. So hopefully
Mhm.
that can do numbers for them going in. But any other words from this one? This team just seems like a pretty strong team together. It can definitely work. It's just going to take a lot of work to make it work.
Yeah, I just want to say that was pretty. Picking up Trapinch at the end seems like a pretty good value pick for Benji here.
Yeah, Arena Trap
Yeah,
can catch some people off guard.
and it does have that big 100 physical attack for whatever reason. So you do have
Yeah,
some good
there it
options
is.
there. And I mean, you have E-Speed Dragonite as well. Belly Drum Aqua Jet Azumarill. So you do have some priority options. And you can run E-Speed Arcanine as well. So you do have good priority options outside or even inside Trick Room
Yeah,
to
and
cover up that speed weakness. So
yeah, it seems pretty strong. This team definitely has its work cut out for it to win, but overall, just as a team together, I'm gonna say if my mouse stops freaking out, it's another A tier, I'd say.
I would say yeah, low A tier or low to mid A tier.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, agree.
All right, and moving on, we've got Arluin, and please don't be mad at me if I said that wrong. First overall pick, the greatest Pokemon of all time, Incineroar. Um, enough said. But really, with this team, looking through, you've got Incin, Goldango, Galarian Moltres already um two picking up each other's weaknesses. So like Goldango weak to fire types, but you've got Incineroar to really shut up those fire types with its resisted hits and then fake out and knock off. Galarian Moltres weak to fairy types, but then you have Goldango to pick up with that. But then you have the Weezing and Toadschool combo, which is really strong. And then Grimmsnarl as well to pick up some stuff, and Slaking with Weezing can be very strong, but then if Weezing goes down, it makes Slaking kind of weak again. So you got some choices to make here.
I'm also noticing that this is probably the first true spread attack team that we have in both Goldango and Galarian Moltres both being able to output good consistent damage with spread moves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is true. Spread moves are pretty strong for them. Hopefully they can get some much needed damage in for their teams, but then you got to be careful with wide guard. There are a couple wide guard users we've seen already in this format. Toadschool can be very strong with paired with Slaking, Grimmsnarl, and Weezing. But just I feel like you just got to play the team right, and you'll be able to win some games. But overall, this team's got the right idea. It's got its work cut out for it, but it can definitely win some games. We see the loss already on the record, so it's starting off the season 0-1 can be a little bit jarring for some people, but I feel like that if you get it together, you could definitely get some wins going for this team. But other than that, you do have some speed control with Thunderwave from Grimmsnarl. I believe Galarian Moltres does get Tailwind. You also have Altaria and Comfey for some heals.
Yeah, Comfey gets Trick Room and Tailwind, so
Yeah.
you have some options there. Only worry about this team being over reliant on one Pokemon. Like if your whole strategy is the Weezing, neutralizing gas with your Toadschool or your Slacking, Weezing going down is going to be a big harm. If you're not running that Golden Go, your biggest damage output, you could be over reliant on Golden Go. So just making sure you're not over reliant on one Pokemon in any match on what you're bringing is going to be important.
Yeah. And that's overall this team has its work cut out for it. It does have a loss on the record, so it is gonna hurt it a little bit here. But I feel like if this team gets it under control, it'll definitely be higher in the tier list as it goes on. But I feel like right now it's sitting in towards C tier. But I can say since you're sitting on one Pokemon, be a little bit careful. But if you could find ways to keep that Weezing alive, you're definitely going to move up to B and A tier. But right now, this is serving more as a power ranking slash what we think of how your draft went, depending on if you've played a game or not. But definitely, you've got a team that you can win with. But we see some good things in your future if you can pick it up and get it together.
Yep. And they got 7 extra points, so you have some options there. Drop some Pokemon, pick up some more expensive ones. Yeah, so good room for improvement there.
Any notes from you, Oko?
Nope, no notes.
All right, we are moving on. We've got Aiden Barber here with the Smog Squad. As you do see, Torkoal. We found out the person who did end up taking Torkoal. As you see, Chi-Yu, Torkoal, Iron Bundle immediately seeing a weakness to water, but Iron Bundle kind of covering up that up a little bit. But overall, this team, honestly, it seems more of the same typing. You don't see too many distinct types on this team, which can be a little bit weak. You also seen that they actually did end up losing to Katori, so maybe some plays here did not go their way, or maybe that the strategy they had in mind didn't really turn out the way they wanted it to be.
Although looking at this, they do still have some. Both the Iron Bundle and Torkoal have some pretty solid kills. It looks like they barely just didn't win here.
Yeah, Hyper, anything you're looking at really so far, looking
Mhm.
at this, at least the speed tiers of this typings of this team?
Yeah, some good speed tiers. You have that Chlorophyll user and Zilligant, and then after you, Classic pair with Torkoal after you Eruption. You're not really that worried about your water type weakness as long as you have that Sun set up. But other than that, I mean, you have a lot of grass types and you have that Gallade, so you're looking at another flying weakness. You have some rock weaknesses too with your first 3 picks here with Chi, Torkoal, and Iron Bundle.
And the
So
Volbeat as
look
well,
out
yeah.
for opposing rock slides there. But I mean, do you have some good strategy? You have good support. Meowstick for some prankster ideas. You have Fake Out, Executor, Rage Powder. I think you might have some Gravity Hypnosis ideas as well. I think Meowstick learns Gravity. And you have super fast sleep setters, Lilligant, Sleep Powder on Executor as well.
Yeah, so they do have they've got the right ideas. I feel like that loss on the record is not doing them any favors, but I can say this team has some great potential, maybe just experimenting a little bit. The season has started, so really playing some practice games can be really huge, especially with the amount of strategies you have at your disposal. But that three walk weaknesses of your top 3 picks is not doing you any favors.
Overall, I think this sounds just about like a solid C to B tier.
Yeah, overall, I mean, the loss in the record ain't doing you too many favors, but I feel like just knowing that you have this 3 weaknesses and someone's gonna look at it and see, ooh, that's really big. It's not doing them too many favors, and probably Katori took that to their advantage. So you're kind of sitting in CT right now after that first loss, but definitely looking to move up in the future. If you could start racking up those wins. And I think it's time to move on. We've got Weeder Pete. I believe that's said right. Picked up Chen Pao, Whimsicott, Great
That was
Tusk.
Water. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So we got Chen Pao, Whimsicott, Great Tusk, the first 3 picks. So again, talking about flying weaknesses, you do have 2 flying weaknesses immediately off the rip, but then Chen Pao is picking up those weaknesses, which is pretty good. But then you ended up taking Annihilate, Hitmonlee, and Snover for some extra flying weaknesses. So again, the flying weaknesses are very prominent in this format. Any words from you guys?
Whimsicott, one of the best prankster users, got Tailwind. You got Chiampao, you have a bunch of just big physical hitters. Chiampao, Great Tusk. You can pair Sunny Day, Whimsicott with a Great Tusk, and you also have Barraskewda outside of Rain. You can run Propeller Tail, try and counter some of those follow me strategies, but you do have a good balance. You do have that flying weakness, but you have some options into opposing strategies.
Mhm. I do want to question the Chandelure as the fourth pick here. Is there something about the Chandelure that I don't know why they would include that here?
It does get Trick Room.
Oh,
It is a good Trick Room attacker. It does some good damage. You just need to be careful, especially with how frail you can be at that low HP stat. But you could definitely get Trick Room set up, and it's pretty good for you. So
oh, it's good.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
only worry with this is you rely a lot on physical damage. So I don't know if Chandelure or any of your other special like Volt Electrode uh, are doing enough to dissuade teams from just running big physical bulk on their team.
Or just intimidate.
Yeah, that
yeah,
too. But you do have that Annihilate right there. Try and counter some Intimidate ideas.
that's probably what they were thinking in mind. But overall, team can seem a little weak to Intimidate, as we mentioned. Just got to make sure you can find a way to potentially set up Trick Room with Chandelure or just Tailwind with Whimsicott. You have the right ideas. You just need to be a little careful with how you play. But overall, this team seems like it can get the job done. So I'm going to kind of just aim for B tier with this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and now I'm gonna rub my hands together evilly as I go and click over to this wonderful team right here. Feeling a little evil with this one. This one is my own draft. This is the wonderful team I drafted, as you can see in order. Orcaladon Mousehold Thunderous to start off. So I actually struck some fear into some people after I drafted Politoed and Gothitelle. I don't know how everything I wanted fell to me. My top 7 picks, actually, what I wanted fell my way, and I have it. So I feel pretty comfortable with this team. It is a little bit in the middle of speed tiers, but I can set up Tailwind with Corviknight, which would be pretty helpful. I also have Swift Swim Basky Legion available, and then Thunderous with T-Wave or Wild Bolt Storm can be pretty strong. Mousehold for redirection, and then, of course, the Perish Trap mode can be very strong on a team like this, and then still threatening you with threats like Archaludon, or, and in some cases, I'll probably bring Archaludon, Basket Legion, and then Politoed and Gothitelle. Scare off my opponent. Scare off my opponent's strong Pokemon, with hopefully weaknesses with those two, and then bring in the support Pokemon, have them trapped in, Perish Trap, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Very, very scary modes. You have all three, like you mentioned. Stamina Archaludon with the Mousehold, Perish Trap, and then Big Rain, Electro Shot, and Basket Legion. So just a lot of things to be careful of. Very hard to prepare into your different modes of speed control: Thunder Wave, Tailwind, and Trick Room, and Swift Swim as well. So just a lot of things to keep in mind when you're trying to prepare against this team.
Yeah. I mean, I feel very strong about this. I feel like I am a force to be reckoned with. I feel like everyone that comes my way is
They
probably.
should be worried about you.
I'm hoping so, at least, especially with this Perish Trap mode. I'm really excited to try it out, at least in this type of format with the Pokemon that I have at my disposal. And I'm very excited. I feel like I can do some damage.
For especially
wonder-
how low you are on the draft, it makes it makes you kind of surprising that you got this entire team.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
wonder, sorry, but do you
ahead.
foresee bringing your mascot Cinderace to any games?
I
It is a
I
fire type, so
I
not
do
really the best to
potentially.
pair with Rain, but
So my plan really, if I run into a team that really that has a couple ghost types and is not really good against the Perish, I'm not going to bring either Gothitelle or Politoed. I'm going to end up bringing Cinderace, Corviknight, Basculegion, Thundurus, Mouse, and Archaludon. And then yes, I could set up Rain if I really want, if I don't bring Cinderace, but if I do bring Cinderace, then I'm going to have Mousehold, Archaludon, Thundurus, and then Cinderace probably. Just Cinderace can be in the back, get some good fighting type damage in. Libero is very strong, high jump kick, bounce, Pyro Ball, get some good damage in. And another big thing against some stall teams, Court Change. Court Change is very funny, especially when they set up Tailwind and Toxic Spikes, so I can just say no and then give them Toxic Spikes. And against leftover stalling teams, it's very strong. And Corviknight can pick up some good KOs alongside of it. And I don't even need to run Rain, and I can just run Power Herb on Archaludon if I really want. Run Stamina. I can run two of its abilities, Stalwart and Stamina, just to pick up KOs and take names and murder everybody.
Yep. And I mean, in my last draft, I had Archaludon, and it's very good, very adaptable, and all three abilities have use. So that's something you don't see very often. That your opponents will have to prepare for.
Well, I don't know what you guys would like to say about this one on the tier list, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm thinking S.
I think an S as well.
Appreciate it, guys. As we see, 2 of the 3 of us are already in S tier. We'll actually get to Oko's team in the Reg H portion of this. So, moving along, we've got Dipstick, and picking up that Dragapult, Ogerpon, and Komodo to start off. So you've got some pretty good overall balanced attackers, and then Komodo, one of those well-known special attackers, actually, with Clangor's Soul and Clanging Scales can be very strong. One of the more known strats for it, and you've got Heatran. So overall, some good coverage, but I feel like this team can actually fall in some instances to certain people. You run the Pelipper, which is good, but then it's not really good for your Heatran. So you just got to pair it with the right Pokemon.
In terms of weather and other speed control, we do have Pelipper with Tailwind and Rain, and then we have Cresselia with Trick Room, probably just to counter it, just because you don't have anything that's particularly slow here. But yeah, there's that at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, you have classic strategy, Cresselia next to Heatran, skill swap the Levitate. You get rid of almost all its weaknesses. So you do have some good synergies on the team. Dragapult, basically the fastest Mon, because Regieleki was not picked up. Fastest relevant Mon to do damage. And then you have some good fairy type damage as well, Iron Valiant. So you do have a good Dragon, Steel, Fairy core as well. Rain is optional. I would like to see maybe there's a Pokemon that abuses Rain more for cheap compared to Hisui and Samurott. Not sure looking at the board, maybe you could do something else there, but I think you do have some good strategies if you want to decide what you're running week to week.
Yeah. I mean, overall, this team seems pretty balanced. It's got a good idea in mind of what it wants to do. It's just, yeah, like you said, the Hisui and Samurott can maybe get dropped and then pick something else up instead.
The only other option is Vaporeon at that point level, so I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, you'd have 2 water absorb Pokemon in your team at that point, which could be helpful. It could be good against some rain teams, but we'll see what they have in mind with those picks. But I feel like this team is strong, got the right idea. Just need to be careful with how you pair your Pokemon, but I feel like that's sitting in A tier.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, moving along. That is the Reg H draft, excuse me. We're going to move on to Adib, excuse me. Picking up Roaring Moon, Giraffe, and Galarian Weezing in their first 3 picks. And then you see the Regigigas, actually. So again, another Weezing team that you see potentially looking to rely on it, but it actually might be hindering this team a little bit when you have Pokemon like when you have Pokemon like Entei or Pokemon like Ogerpon Cornerstone who kind of rely on their abilities in some instances to not get one shot. So you just need to be using your you just need to be making sure you're using this Weezing in the right instances. But it seems like with this team you're going to be bringing it quite a lot. So some stuff to think about.
And you do have some ideas with Ability Shield You could be running that on a few of your Pokemon. Unfortunately, they did patch the old strategy of Roaring Moon next to Weezing. Before it did let you use that booster energy. Now it does turn off your photosynthesis. So that is unfortunate for this draft. But I mean, you have options when to bring out the Weezing, when not to with that Regigigas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about to see what this team can do. But yeah, like you said, this Weezing I honestly hold you back in some instances. Yes, it's good for the Regigigas and for sometimes the Enamorus, but then it kind of holds back the Entei really. It doesn't let it have an inner focus. It's gonna get flinched. It's gonna have Intimidate drops as well as the Roaring Moon. You do not have too many good special attackers outside of Enamorus and kind of Fergraf on this team. Hisuian Goodra could do a bit of damage, yeah, but it's more known for a setup/bulky Pokemon. So Intimidate can run through you on this team if Weezing goes down, or if and if you just let an ability shield, Intimidate Pokemon just really just wither you away.
I would say this power level is uncertain. It really just depends on the skills of Adbib as a player here to be able to pilot this team.
Yeah, I mean, overall, we haven't seen anything from them yet, but I'd definitely say right now, sitting in B tier, kind of the middling of the range, but definitely has their work cut out for them if they want to move up to A and maybe even S tier, which they definitely can with this team.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think this is one of the teams where your expression as a player can really come out and move that up compared to some other ones that might be more straightforward.
Yeah, and now moving on, we've got Mocha, the tyrannical Tyrannitars. First picks with Lando, Tyrion, Iron Hands, and Tyranitar. So immediately off the bat, seeing a water weakness on this team as you actually end up having 5 weaknesses to water. So not looking very promising against rain teams. Yes, you do have terrain you can set up
Make
of
that
your own.
6.
Oh,
Make
make
that
that
6.
my oh my. So that's quite a lot of weaknesses going on. But just looking, yes, you do have that you can set up the sand with Tyranitar, but if a team has Prankster Rain, then they can really tear you apart. Or if they just have a Pokemon that's slower than Tyranitar that they can switch in to get that Rain set up, you're not looking in too many good instances there.
Yeah, and also as well, you do have 2 immunities, but you have 7 ground weaknesses. If all your Pokemon, if they're not immune in Enamorus or Landorus, they are weak to ground, which could be concerning as well.
Yeah, so I guess Gravity would tear this team apart. Although yeah, I guess you don't really need to use Gravity in some instances. You kind of just win against most of those teams. Armorers is here, yeah, but you don't really have too many Trick Room setters, and nor it's kind of an awkward speed tier. You don't really want to run Trick Room. I don't know if anything on this team actually gets Tailwind either. You're kind of just playing with Excadrill
Does
and trying
Lando
to...
do?
Lando,
Does
I do
Lando
not
get it?
believe gets Tailwind. I do not believe it does.
No. Enamorus Tailwind? Enamorus gets Tailwind. Okay, you have Enamorus Tailwind here, but you really do want Enamorus for its special attack. So you're gonna have to balance. Are you running Tailwind on Enamorus, or are you gonna run that special attack? Big fairy type damage you don't really have with anything else on the team.
Yeah, that ground weakness is really holding you back right now. But you definitely can make it work. But right now with that ground weakness, I don't see this team doing very good in its first week. I might believe that we're sitting in towards the bottom of C tier. But you could definitely prove us wrong and move up the ranks if you can. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Please prove us wrong though. Like I would love to see that image near the top. It's
Oh
such a
yeah.
it's such a funny logo.
Yeah, no, of course. And now moving on, we've got Krish Kebab, the Philadelphia Bay Leafs, the greatest one of the greatest logos we actually have on here. Bay Leaf hurling over Typhlosion. And we actually have
Take
the
one
other
back,
Lando pick.
Bayleaf.
Yeah, we've got Rillaboom, Volcarona, and Lumise as the first 3 picks, and you also have Lando Incarnate and Hydreigon. So some pretty strong first 5 picks, but then using all those points, they had to back it up and use some of their less points for some lower tier picks. As you do see already in these first 3 picks all weak to flying, and then Lando taking actually some pretty decent damage still from those flying type Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, overall, go ahead, Hyper.
Yeah, you have Fire, Water, Grass Core. You have 2 Intimidators as well. They could balance of special versus physical attacks, and I guess you do have options for Bastiodon if you can set up Iron Defense, Wide Guard, shenanigans, take out all your opponent's special attackers, and create like an unkillable wall. But I think you are worried about that flying weakness and potentially some other exploits against your team with maybe Trick Room, different spread moves maybe could be a problem. But I mean, your Ilamise does help with different weathers and Tailwind.
Yeah, I mean, this team definitely has its strengths, but definitely its weaknesses are very real, though. So you do need to be careful. Lando can definitely get destroyed by some water or ice types. Rillaboom goes down to some ice types, so you got to be really careful with the way you manage it. But Rillaboom, terrain control is very nice. You just need to be careful with the way you manage this team. But I feel like this team has some good strengths, but overall, its weaknesses are really jarring it. So, any thoughts from you
I don't
guys?
have too much. I don't have too much to add to this team specifically.
Yeah, I feel like this team, as of right now, is sitting towards the C tier. You just got to be really careful. I did not mean to put in D tier. I'm sorry. But you can definitely, if you win some games and move this team up, just be careful of your weaknesses. But you can definitely prove us wrong. But right now, sitting even towards C tier.
Mm-hmm. And then
And
on
then,
to NK.
yep, the final pick of the draft, in round 1. So picking up Sneasler and Indeedee Mail and Iron Crown to start off. So there's the Psy spam you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is definitely the premier Trick Room terrain team here. Also with the really good additions in Primarina spread with that third sprite Pixelate Hyper Voice. And then you also have 3 starters, so you have access to all 3 plunges here. So
Yeah, just be careful. I don't feel like Trick Room
Yeah.
is too good for this team because you do have Sneasler and you have Iron Crown and Blaziken all being really fast. Iron Crown also is probably going to get sped up in with the booster energy, and then Psychic Terrain's just really just going to boost this thing to all hell and just do so much damage.
Mm-hmm. But I think, I mean, all 3 pledges do have some application with your Sneasler. You do have good moves for the Rainbow. You're going to get guaranteed status with that. And then Swamp, always useful, quarters the speed. And Fire Sea. I mean, you have some options, I think, with running some bulkier sets to try and stall out some games with the Fire Sea damage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we also have some really good value picks in Smeargle near the end of the draft. That's kind of insane. And then
Yeah,
also
very surprising.
Espeon.
Yeah,
So
that
you have,
Mudsdale is no sleeper pick either. That could definitely do some damage still too as well.
just worry about, I mean, you have some options, Smeargle plus anything you can side decorate. You have some good spread users here. Primarina, Thigh Spam, of course. I mean, you could even run Rampardos with Rock Slide for some good spread damage. So you do have options with that decorate, and then of course other moves: Spore, Wide Guard, Fake Out, Follow Me, just anything you want, which is very hard to prepare for in draft.
Mm-hmm. Overall, very strong draft from NK here. I do believe we're looking at another S tier, in
Yeah,
my
honestly,
opinion.
yeah, this team definitely has its strengths. It definitely knows what it's doing. We have a very balanced tier list here for you guys. I just realized I do need to go a bit earlier than expected. So if you guys would like, we could definitely do Regulation H draft at a different time. We could definitely do it later today, or we could do it, find another time this week to do it. I'm just a little busy. I have something I have to do. I apologize. But we definitely get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be a
Sure,
part
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, well, that's all we've got. Any final words from you guys?
I'm excited to see how this goes for y'all, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
I mean,
definitely interesting.
yeah, we will go over. We'll see Oko's team next time. Definitely excited to see what he's cooking up over there. So, that's all we've got for you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah, see you guys later.
See y'all.